Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Corbett, your host, and with me today, I have the great Tony Saladino. This man he's fantastic. He's been an educator, he's a historian, he's a baseball enthusiast, advocate, and he's done so much for the game, not just cataloging it all, but for students and for anybody who loves it, including the Tony Saladino Senior Tournament. So welcome, Tony. Glad you're here today, my friend, and thank you for inviting me here in your home.
My pleasure.
You know, I said educator, historian, baseball enthusiast, but to me, you have been so involved. If somebody personally asked me, what's Tony Saladino do? I said he's a godfather of baseball in Tampa, because all of the great players that have come through here, many of them have gone through your tournament, and many probably were students of yours too when you were teaching.
That's true.
Where were you teaching? How did you, let's take a step back. Let's look at Tony Saladino when he first found out and discovered baseball as a young man in Ybor. How did that come to be?
I fell in love with the game because a small man can play. And we had the perfect setup at Cuscaden Park in Ybor City. We had Mr. Lopez as our idol. And everybody thought they could make it like he did. And that was a good inspiration. But anyway, I fell in love with the game because a small man can play it, and it stuck with me. And I tried to help other kids along the way.
Well, as a youngster, I mean, did you see other kids playing? Was it recreational ball? What was there to get involved with?
That was before Little Leagues. It was a recreation league, and we happened to have a great man directing that league there, and taught me a lot about baseball as a 10-year-old.
And who was that?
Andrew Espolita.
Andrew Espolita.
Who also helped Piniella and Tony Russa.
Oh, my gosh.
And many others.
Man, that kind of history, that is rich. And I'm going to just insert here real quickly. Tony shared with me a while back that Hillsborough County alone, here in Tampa, Hillsborough County, has over 95 baseball players who've made it to Major League Baseball. That number's probably growing as we speak.
Could be.
There's some trade deadlines going on right now, so who knows? Maybe somebody's being pulled from a minor league team and up to the major league level. Well, when you played in that recreational league, was there? I mean, it's Cuscaden Park, and there were a few others. It wasn't Little League. It wasn't Travel League. It wasn't even American Legion, I guess, at that point.
No, this was strictly recreational.
And to me, that's what baseball needs to be anyway. So I'm glad you had that opportunity. And in Ybor, what was life like day to day? That, just getting around and that sort of thing.
Well, we had a male director and a female director at the park. Cuscaden Park was a city recreation. They would set up practices, and we'd show up. Somehow we'd get there and thought we were in the big leagues as 10, 11, and 12-year-old.
You had no attraction to going over that big swimming pool over there?
Never been in that swimming pool. Never been in the boys' club. Well, I did. I take it back. I went in the boys' club when it rained.
Well, that sounds like a good idea.
But it was a beautiful setup and great, great memories that I'm living on now.
A big part, I mean, if anybody walks in your home is definitely going to see your allegiance to the game of baseball. I mean, all the different mementos and a lot of these, I think you told me, have a very personal meaning. It isn't just something that came off of a shelf. In many cases, it's something that's personal. Can you tell me, give me one or two stories with that?
Well, Wade Boggs has an award that he gives out, sponsored by the county commission, and I'm his representative at that, and that keeps me busy with that, but it's a good thing. I was fortunate enough to be the chairman of the statue for Al Lopez, and those are personal things that, more memories.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk a little later about that statue, but can you tell me a little bit about kind of your first introduction to Al when you first became aware of who he was and basically seeing him as a ball player?
My father used to tell me about Al all the time as I was a kid. And everybody in Tampa looked up to Mr. Lopez because he was the first one in the big leagues out of Tampa. And he was always busy managing or playing and would only come home off season to play golf with his buddies and dominoes. I didn't meet him till he got out of baseball completely at banquets. And it was nonstop. Then he came to the tournament every year. He's still my idol.
That says a lot. I know what was the term that they would use, a term of endearment to Al. What was it, El Senor?
Always El Senor. That's all I read in the papers and magazines when I was a kid is El Senor. I didn't know who El Senor was until my dad told me. And then I realized as I got older that he was El Senor.
That is so cool because, I mean, it's a term of respect that's given to him. I'm looking here at Al Lopez and see, when Al Lopez Field was created, you were probably late teens, early 20s when that was put together here in Tampa.
We played ball on that field too. We had an old-timers game against the Tampa Smokers, and he was devastated when they tore that down.
Yeah. They put it together. What was it, in 1955, I believe, and then if I remember correctly, the last game played there was in 1988. So had a good stretch, but I know that there was more interest in trying to get a major league team to come to Tampa, I think, instead of investing in what was happening with spring training and minor leagues here. So I was very disheartened to find out that it was turned into a parking lot.
That's what I heard.
But you stepped up, man. I mean, you weren't going to let that just pass. Tony, you made a difference. You said, okay, this is almost, you have to do something to show that respect again to Al, to go ahead and make sure that Tampa remembers him. And what was the project that you worked on?
Well, we were at the tournament at the time, and Ted Webb was one outstanding radio announcer in Tampa. We got together, and he said, we got to do something for Mr. Lopez. Didn't know what we were going to do, but he says, I think we ought to build a statue. I had no knowledge about a statue. And all of a sudden, I get appointed chairman of this committee. And it was like going to college. I learned a lot. And we finally did it. I had a lot of memories from that, too.
Well, man, I'm just thinking of the contacts. I know you probably had some already, but the contacts you would have to make, the people you'd have to meet. And then, some folks get a little nervous about asking for donations and money, but, you guys were very straightforward and you had a very honorable thing you were trying to achieve. And I think that made a difference in being able to put it out there. But none of that would have happened if you didn't have the spark that Tony Saladino has.
Well, my wife and I spoke to him about the statue and told him we were going to do it because if we'd have asked him, he would have said no. And then we started mailing out for donations, mailing out invitations for congratulations for him. And it was like going to college all over again.
Wow. Tony was kind enough here to share with me a book on the development of getting everything ready for that statue and the event. But some of those are the letters that were submitted from organizations, from players, and from other folks as well. And I told Tony earlier, one of my favorite ones is one from Pee Wee Reese. He sent back in regards to all this. And it wasn't just glad you're going ahead and recognizing Al. It was a personal note about something between him and Al.
Several of them were good memories for me. I mean, we got letters from Ted Williams and a lot of the owners of the teams and our local boys, Tony Russa and Lou Piniella. It was amazing.
Well, it's good to see that kind of support. And what I was alluding to, I don't actually have it in front of me at the moment, but the thing with Pee Wee Reese was he recounted a special memory with Al. And he was talking about during Pee Wee's rookie year, Al tagged him off at second. And he said, I haven't made that mistake since. It was obviously a moment he still cherished that Al gave him an education, I think, that day. So I was glad to see that. Let's go back to the tournament because That's an important part of where you're making a big difference in baseball, and certainly here in Tampa, Tony. It's a tournament that you started in honor of your father. And if I've got that right, can you tell me what brought that to mind? How that evolved?
My father and I were very close. He was my idol. He died at 46 years old, and I was grieving very badly. And that's when I met my wife-to-be. And she said, why don't we do something to honor him and start a tournament? I went to the school system and applied for the tournament through them, got their permission, and that's going on 44 years now.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, you had a lot of great support. I mean, with your family, obviously with your wife, and now it continues on with your sons managing the tournament now, correct?
I passed the baton over to him, and he's got it going, and he's doing a good job. And I'm retired. I show up and be there with them and still enjoy it.
And remind me, what's the growth like? What did you see that first year as far as the number of teams?
We started with 11 teams, and this is all Hillsborough County. And we got a lot of support from a lot of people, law enforcement, the educational system. And it was a pleasure. It was, my wife used to cater to the Major League Scouts that were taking care of our boys there. So it was just a warm feeling that we enjoyed all through these years.
I was glad to see that about the whole thing with the Scouts, because your tournament has really become a place for them to come and see the future of baseball, to find future people for their own teams, because let's face it, okay, we're in Florida. We get to play baseball years as far as minor leagues, etc. But still, I still look at Tampa and the surrounding areas as an incubator for great baseball talent. I read a story, and you can share this if you like. It was about a scout and a chicken patty sandwich. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, my wife used to cater to these scouts, and in those days they were a little older than now. There's a lot of young scouts, but she always used to prepare something for them to take home to their wives. Dan Cressman was a scout for the Orioles, so she put her arm around him and gave him a doggy bag to take home to his wife, Ruth. When I was ready to have my heart surgery, I saw in the paper where Dan Cressman died. And I was wondering if it was the same man or not.
Right.
And it was. But the reason I found out was that I called because I had all the names of these scouts because we were in the Florida Diamond Club together. And I got my mail returned from that, so I had a phone number for Ruth, and I called her. I said, "This is Tony Saladino." She said, "Yes, you called at the right time." Now I'm wondering what happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the bathroom, so now I know he's alive. But she says, he didn't remember you, but he remembered your wife, Bertha, from chicken patty sandwiches.
I love that.
And that went on all these years.
Oh, man. Family is obviously a big part of the Saladino family as far as supporting one another and baseball in general. But, your wife, if I remember, you said she was really kind of the impetus because at a time when you were grieving at the loss of your father, and that she helped you find something to...
Exactly.
So that was a way of you being able to give something. Go ahead, please.
Dedicated my life to my father. Community service and service to mankind.
Well, it's interesting you say that, too, because I keep looking at different philosophies. I know kind of going off the deep end here, Tony, so forgive me. But I've been looking at a few things, and I found something called Ikigai, and it's simply put, reason to live. And it means something, basically find something that's worthwhile for you, and then you can feel like you're giving back to on top of it. So it sounds to me that finding something like this tournament was certainly you and your family were able to do as well in that capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah, the tournament itself again. Well, when that first year, you're looking at players, and there's probably not rec leagues. So the students that are coming in, did you say they're all from Hillsborough area?
Hillsborough County.
From those first 11 teams, what's the number now that they're at?
Now we have 42.
Cheese and crackers. How many ball fields do you have to have?
7. Started with 1.
Respect, sir. Respect to you and your family for that. You know, I was interested, too, in hearing that above and beyond the tournament, you know, there's some things you were looking at. Somebody to ask you as far as with doing something with the Rays, with your team. Was it the season finale? Or
Well, I invited some of the Rays front office people to come out and throw a first pitch. They enjoyed that. They took a liking to me, and then they asked me for a meeting here at my house. And we met. My wife cooked a nice meal for them. The reason they wanted to come here was proposing for us to go to the Tropicana Field for our championship game.
Wow.
And I was flabbergasted, proud, happy. But I told them we could not do that because we're strictly Hillsborough County, for the Hillsborough County educational system, for the law enforcement, for everything else. But I got to know some of the people there, and they were great to us, supported us. They used to print our programs for us, and it was a good relationship. And I said, I can't move my tournament there, but I can start you an all-star game between Hillsborough and Pinellas County. And they were interested, so I started calling our athletic director, and he called the other athletic director from Pinellas, and it was a go, and it's still going on now.
Wow. It's fantastic, man. I look at this, and you're talking about some of the early days, obviously with Al, but then also with Tony Russa and Lou Piniella. And then coming up through your tournament, you know, you saw some great players. One of the first MVPs that you guys have, who was that?
Doc Gooden.
Wow.
Hillsborough High School.
And, I mean, how many names how many times do you think you can look back at the results from one of the Tony Saladino tournaments and saying, oh, that team, yes, these 3 guys are now there. They're now in the show.
I got a scrapbook on some of that. Every write-up ever in the paper I got every year's program. And what my wife and I did the first year, we were talking to the scouts and asked them to go through their travel experience for scouting. Well, we got to buy admission, we got to buy a program, we got to buy food. So my wife and I came home and talked about this. These guys are here to scout our kids.
Right.
We got to roll out the carpet. So we started free admission, free programs. My wife, we rented a trailer. She made a kitchen out of it, home-cooked meals for these scouts. They would go all over the country talking about our tournament. So that's part of why we were successful.
Well, you know, it's about taking care of people that you need to help promote the program, but by the same token, there's a sense, I think, of a goodwill and appreciation with them as well overall. Tony, you know, I'm looking here again at the legacy of you with your family too, with the tournament, but it goes above and beyond that. We talk about some of these players that have gone forward, and there was a special award. Was it Dave Magadan? What was that?
Dave Magadan won our award from Jesuit High School, because every year we have one player designated as the best player in the county and voted on by a committee. So he was getting our award here at the house, and I got a knock on the door from a football coach from Alabama.
What?
I'm so-and-so, and I'm here to sign Dave Magadan. Need your permission. I'm saving the baseball coach a trip. And I said, well, of course. So he signed his Alabama scholarship in this home.
Oh, man. Well, when I walk into your home, it's almost like sacred with baseball. So I'm not surprised that there's moments like that have taken place here as well.
The president of the Hall of Fame at the time, he's retired now, came here to my home and called it Cooperstown South.
Well, I can see that. Goodness gracious, yes. And folks, you know, when you pull up in front of Tony's house, there's no doubt that the man loves baseball. I mean, Your front yard's turf in the shape of a diamond, man. I mean, I love this. When I pulled up the first time, I said, this is great. This is somebody who enjoys the game.
I had that built so that I can finally hit a home run.
Oh, goodness. You know, there's so much, again, with the game. If you're in the Tampa area, Florida area, and certainly Hillsborough area, because as Tony mentioned earlier, the number of players that come through here, and like I said, I've looked at your book, I think it was 95 plus, and as it's growing. But Florida, this past year, you've probably seen where USF and University of Florida both made it up into the NCAA Division I. Looks like they're going to go to the World Series. But NCAA Division II had a World Series winner, and that began right here with the team of the University of Tampa. And I would love for you to share a little bit of that story with us, Tony.
Well, I had gone through a lot of medical problems with my heart, and we found out that University of Tampa was going to the Nationals in Cary in North Carolina. So I did make it, and luckily they won. My grandson was the shortstop, and that was a great big thrill in my life.
Wow. Is he graduated now, or
he's got another year at the University of Tampa?
All right, folks, you hear that?
My wife wanted him to go to the University of Tampa because I graduated from there, so that worked out.
Well, I'm sure the University of Tampa is appreciative too, with having that kind of talent on there as well. So that's been fantastic. So Nico Saladino, shortstop with the University of Tampa. We got another year we can watch him, it sounds like. So I'm looking forward to that. Tony, is there anything else special that I've neglected to address that you'd like to say something to the Baseball Biz audience?
We're still doing as best we can with the tournament. The format has changed, but my son can handle that. As far as I'm concerned, my slogan in life now is that I'm slowing down, but I'm not stopping. There
you go, brother. I like that a lot. Okay. Well, once again, thank you, Tony Saladino, for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. And I want to thank all of y'all for joining us here as well. Remember, you can find us on Apple iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iHeartRadio. Heck, we're everywhere. And, of course, at baseballbizondeck.com. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to talking with you again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music rocking forward. That was pretty good, man.